Starting recording January 20th, 2025, Inauguration Day, MLK Day. Here we go. Hi, I've never been this age before. I'm 67 and I've never been this old. I've been younger and I didn't know it. There was a popular song that had a cute, though nonsensical phrase back in the day that said, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. This is Inauguration Day, and I promised myself before I started that I wasn't going to say that, but I think it's relevant for this. You've heard me go on and on about social handles, social skills, and the ability to interlock in with other people to have a more successful life. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, then you have to have social skills. If you're going to be a Christian, you have to have social skills. If you're going to be a businessman, if you're going to be somebody who's recovering from rehab, you have to have social skills. It's just flat out have to. Now, how many of us are really good at social skills? I'm not. I'm not really good. I'm the guy who's uptight about what I do with my hands when I'm having a conversation. I'll show up at a networking event and people automatically clutch in together and, hey, Bob, how's the insurance industry? Hey, did you see that plumber? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, my toilet's overflowing. Whatever. They have no trouble talking about things. I'm like, hey, did y'all see the Jack Benny rerun from, I saw it online, okay. I seem to not know about what to talk about at times. So all that said, yeah, I can be a little socially awkward would be a way of putting it. And the reason why, well, it's my own fault in some ways. And some of it is just how I was born and what I have been through. I had depression, as I've said many times before, from age 12 to 48, and then the after echoes after that of the depression that linger. I think most of those after effects are a good thing because they make you a deeper person. You can be more empathetic. You can be more socially aware. You can look at people and go, yeah, I've seen that before. So it's really not a bad thing. And also, as I've said, it makes me a better writer. I can slow down my mind and be able to write while I'm typing. Now, sometimes I'll have a flight of thoughts to where I have to click on the dictator function. Dictator? I guess I start with where? No, dictator function. It's not a dictator function. It's a dictation function. I need more caffeine. Okay. So I'll click on the dictation function and get these flight of thoughts out of my head quickly and then go back later and clean it up. Right now, the country is very divided, and I don't want to talk about politics because I'm really not very good at it. I have my own beliefs and my own things which can change from regime to regime. And though I'm a staunch believer in America, I think that neither party holds all the straws in how to get that done. And that's about as far as I'm going to go. Let's talk about people now, why that's relevant. One thing politics is very bad at is finding a middle ground. I think it was Ronald Reagan that said something like, just because we disagree on 20% of the issues doesn't make us 100% enemies. Okay, and that's why, especially this past Thanksgiving, it's 2025, the 24th Thanksgiving that we had in Christmas, people were very uptight and both parties were going, well, this is how you survive Thanksgiving. You don't mention politics, or if you do, you stand up for you. Not important. Ultimately, it is your job, if you believe you truly hold the higher ground, is to find the middle ground. I'm not really interested in holding the higher ground if it means that I win an argument. 30 years ago, I went through a teaching from an organization that was called Evangelism Explosion, to where they taught people how to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it was very eye-opening to me because I had just come to Christ just like a year or two before, and I was so overwhelmed about how to do it correctly because I'd never thought about it. And I saw it modeled by some wonderful people. Now, what I learned from that was how to engage with people about something that could be very divisive, that could be very alarming, that sets off a lot of landmines and gets people on their heels, very defensive. No, you can still engage with people about, I don't know, again, Jesus. You can talk about politics. You can talk about any hot button topic that is in your circle, in your orbit. Now, if you don't talk about those things, that's fine. But if you need to engage with somebody who's got a rainbow flag pin and they've got pink hair and they're a certain way, or somebody who's wearing an American flag and is, got a red tie and all this, can you manage that swing? Okay. Now, you see the meme going around today that's way overused that says, I was taught to treat the CEO the same way as I treat the janitor. Well, okay, that's great. And you know what? If you did that, you probably get fired. All right, because there's a certain degree of respect that you give both people, but there's an expectation of respect that also has to be adapted. One is not better than the other, but how you address and speak to and have certain conversational expectations is different, and you have to do that. So we have to find the middle ground. I have a friend of mine that I had for years. He's kind of drifted off. He retired from a good job, and he's now like doing gardening, and he's kind of fallen off the planet. But back, I believe it was around the time of, it may have been even earlier than Obama, I drifted away from being of one certain political party. I was liberal. I went to seminary, and I dropped the liberalism because I found certain things that were in conflict with it, mainly abortion. But there were other things. Again, I'm not trying to be political. It's part of the story. My friend, however, didn't have the same life experience that I had. And he and I at that time were both liberal. And then I became more of a conservative. So what? Well, we had to have conversations. And I loved this man. I'd known him. Here it was the early 2000s. And I'd known him since 77. And all of a sudden, I didn't know how to speak to this guy. And it was tough. We had to find a middle ground. What was our middle ground? Well, we had to discover it. It was a voyage of discovery to where we could still talk politics, but we had to have a safe zone. Now, before some other people in this conversation run away with the term safe zone, safe zones are good things if they're personal. In other words, between you and your spouse, between you and a friend, between somebody that you're trying to get a communication across, something that is normally a landmine, a no man's land. So you have to speak across. We all know the story of the Christmas truce during World War I, where both sides came out on Christmas Eve and played soccer and exchanged chocolates and showed pictures of each other, and it was an amazing moment. However, they had to overcome the fears that was installed by the higher ups, the generals and the corporals, by the generals that were exacting the war. We have generals and war makers in our lives, be it news organizations, be it your church, be it the organizations you hang around with, your networking group, that say, well, these people are just always like that, be it black, white, Latino, or this political group, or this networking group, or this organization. Okay, when you broad brush, of course, you're a bigot. And bigotry always comes from really one thing, and that's just fear. Okay, it's ignorance, and fear is a byproduct of ignorance. Go and find out who these people are. All right, go visit somebody's networking that you don't know about and that you maybe speak badly about. So, safe zone. Back to that. You have this safe zone. You have this safe zone moment where you speak across them and go, look, and you tell them this is a safe zone. Remember the Don Adams comedy in the 60s, Get Smart, where the the cone of silence would come down on them, and they both couldn't hear each other, and Maxwell Smart's trying to talk to the boss, and they have to shout at each other. It wasn't the cone of silence. It was supposed to be, but it was silly, just like the whole show. But this cone of silence came down, and nobody else was supposed to hear, but they both could communicate. You create this safe zone where you can communicate, and you have to do this with your spouse, especially if you've dredged up a lot of debris in your life that about expectations and trust and such. You have to put all that aside and go, look, we need to do A, B, and C. I feel A, B, and C. I need A, B, and C. I know you need A, B, and C. And I think we can do E, G, and F and move on beyond the emotional trappings. What are you doing? You're creating a safe zone. You're creating a middle ground. Now, what's the difference between safe zone and middle ground? Safe zones are just conversational for like one moment. That one moment. Right now, I need a safe zone with you. I need to discuss our budget. And it's in place just for a few sentences or maybe a conversation that lasts a few minutes, but rarely more. A middle ground is lasting like a garden. A middle ground is in place. You have built it. It moves with you sometimes, but it stays between two people if that's required. But more importantly, you have it and you seek it with other people, and you could take it with you to a mosque, to a church, to a Democratic rally, to a Republican rally, to BLM, to whoever, and you could have this cultivated ground with you where you get to understand. See, that's the beginning of wisdom. Of course, it's the understanding of God, but God wants you to know his people. And one of those wisdom traits is loving his people to understand, or I'm twisting that. Understanding his people to love, or loving to understand, however you want to twist that. It's important to know them, to understand them, to love them enough to listen instead of trigger. Oh, you got pink hair, trigger. Oh, you're obese, trigger. Congratulations, you're just an idiot. A wise person is going to sit and listen. And sometimes you're just going to go, uh-huh. And your head may be playing certain tapes which they shouldn't. I know, because you want to go, you're just an idiot. You're a frickin' liberal. Oh, you're a closed-minded bigot, whatever. Yeah. How about stop the tapes? Because the tapes have buttons where you can turn them off. And you sit and listen. They're hurt. Remember when Hillary lost to Trump in Trump's first election? And all the people were screaming, all the women, feminists, and The conservatives were laughing, and rightly so in some ways. But know this, those people were hurting. Now, their policies and what have you certainly weren't my cup of tea, but they were hurting. They really were in pain, and they couldn't wrap their mind around why they lost. Now, some of us know why they lost. I don't know entirely why, but I do know this. Again, they hurt. Does that mean they should have gotten their way? No. But does that mean I get to grind my boot into them? Oh, you deserve that. That's my problem. America is very wounded right now. Trump's coming into office. Today, he's supposedly going to sign just hundreds of executive orders that are going to fix supposedly what Biden did or what this is. Some of them are silly. Some of them are good. The Gulf of Texas or the Gulf of America or whatever, please. Some of them are divisive. You really want to be successful in life? When they lower your body into the ground, do you want them to say, yeah, he was a staunch conservative. Yes, it was a flaming liberal. He stood up for rights. Or do you want to be known as somebody who is a healer? Do you want to be somebody who fixes the problem? Guys have this nugget in their head that says, I'm a fixer. Their wife comes up to him, oh, I'm having a rotten day. My car was making this noise and Billy was doing this and my job doing that. Oh, well, and the guy's all of a sudden making a list. Well, I can fix this with the car and I need to talk to Billy and your job. Well, maybe we can get you another job. And guys are just doing that. Women, and a lot of times they don't want you to fix. They just need to vent. You're healing by just sitting there listening. Okay, I'm sorry. How about a hug? Let me get you a cup of tea, a glass of wine. Let's sit down and watch a Hallmark movie or something. That's not my wife, by the way. She wants me to go work on the transmission or something. But still, you have to understand somebody's vibe. Not too long ago, about 4 months ago, I had an old friend over here at my house, and we were working on my car that I had at the time, and we just couldn't get it to work. And I knew the car was a problem, and I felt bad that he couldn't get the job done that he wanted to get, and he was spending time, and it was frustrating him. And I didn't like him wasting time on a car that was just not that good, even though he was doing it out of an act of love for me. And I'd say, hey, come on, let's just stop here. Let's get out. And apparently he misunderstood, and he went off on me. And I'd known this man since, 50 years ago. I'd met him 50 years ago. So, but he went off, and he yelled at me, and he called me some really foul names and accused me of some really hurtful moments and was very aggressive to me. And it hurt like hell. It hurt very much. And I consider this person one of my closest, if not my closest friend. I backed off him for a while. I was, okay. And he lives a distance away. So I just, I didn't call him or text him for several weeks. And I'd see him on social media. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And he came over a couple of times since then after things kind of calmed down. He never apologized. And I didn't seek one. Would I like one? Probably. He'll never see this. He doesn't watch the show. I don't think he even knows about it. He's got his own agenda in life. Okay, that's fine. Not everybody in your life has to be engaged in your life as well, to the point to where they're doing everything you want them to do. Watch your shows, buy your product, listen to your stories all the time. Sometimes they just want to be around your core, which is not involved in all that other stuff. The reason I say that is I created and maintained a middle ground with this guy because I like him around, because he's an old friend, because I cherish him. Now, maybe we get a little bit more distance and I'll sit down with him over a beer or something and go, That was really uncool. Now, I don't exactly know how he'll manage that. He may accept it and go, yeah, I was a jerk. Or he may tell me to go and jump in a lake. We'll see what happens if that moment really has to happen. But what is important is that I maintain a middle ground. Now, one last closing note. Operating a middle ground doesn't mean you're a pushover, or it means you're passive, or you let people walk all over you. They will, but you get to decide if that's the sword you want to die on. Do you think that by having people around you that are nurturing to you and are having crap days as well? Because I know this guy was having a crap day. I knew he was having some difficulties in his life, so he blew off steam around me. So you know what? That's kind of a blessing to me because I'm a middle ground. I'm a safe zone to this guy enough to where he could blow up and he hopes for forgiveness automatically. And that one time, that's really the only time he's ever done something like that. So I'm willing to go, okay, that's fine. You get to decide where that line is, entirely you. If you have really tight lines, very tight boundaries, and people permeate them, it may bother you more. But if your boundaries are more forgiving and you're strong enough to manage difficult times and people doing certain things for you, and you're here to more keep the peace without being a carpet, then you're going to be fine too. It's entirely up to your core. If you're strong and you can handle people sometimes taking a bite out of you, then be that. However, if you're a little more frail, if you're a little more sensitive, and your boundaries are a little more tight, that's okay. Just know that you're going to have a different brand of friends around you. I heard Tony Robbins say recently, the same things that protect you also imprison you. Be aware. All right, go make a middle ground. Don't be a pushover. Don't be passive. Don't be a carpet to anyone. Live your own life, but be it a life where you're healing rather than, hey, I'm strong and no, strong people can handle it. Strong people manage it. Fathers have a tough job because nobody seems to see them do their job. Okay, well, that's just the job we're called to. Let's do that. My name is John Chester. You can contact me at thejohnchestershow@gmail.com. Watch me on YouTube and the regular suspects as well. Until then, thanks for your time. God bless you.